Some men cut trees because it's a job. Some men chop trees for the challenges of speed and accuracy. Some men do both. The 1990 STIHL Timber Sports Series takes us to our second stop on the road to over $20,000 in prize money, the Albany Timber Carnival. Here, participants will face the ultimate test of skill against the best of the best. This gathering of the world's finest loggers takes place in Albany, Oregon, as a salute to the great timber industry of the Pacific Northwest.
Welcome to Albany, Oregon, home of the world's championship Timber Carnival, and kind of home base for this stop of the STIHL Timber Sports Series. And if you watch us regularly, you know that all of our competitive events relate precisely to the early days of lumberjacking, and today will be no different. In fact, we got some events that, well, I guess in those early days were just another day at the office for a lumberjack. But as we watch them, boy, they're going to be a lot of fun and kind of breathtaking. You'll understand what I mean just a little bit later on. Now, Oregon boasts of legendary trees and of forests and of timber history, so what better place for a timber sports competition than here in Albany? I'm Jerry McInnes. We've got a great day for you today, and I'm glad you're with us.
The STIHL Timber Sports Series, brought to you by STIHL. When you depend on tools, depend on STIHL.
Lumberjack Affairs always seem to have us featuring 4 events, our STIHL Points events, but there's so many other things going on as well. And I thought we'd just start the day out by shifting our attention to some of these other events that are happening down on the field.
Now they're going to go over these logs here. The choker will be down at that end, 10 feet past from the center of those logs. They'll pick up their choker, come back over these logs, set it on this log that they started on, and come back, and the time stops when they touch this log.
This is the choker setting. Sounded pretty simple, didn't it? Except what is a choker? Well, it's a 20-foot long piece of cable that weighs 40 pounds. It lays in position on the ground right behind the third and last log, and the contestant needs to hurry to it, then bring it back and connect it to the first log. And sometimes that's not real easy, at least not today for our friend Rob Weibel. He made it though, and Lonnie Rose and Mike Forrester now are psyching up at the moment. And can't you just imagine this? Carl Lewis hurdling while dragging a 40-pound cable behind him. Well, these athletes are prepared. And they're serious. And Mike Forrester is going to come in with a time under 16 seconds, and that's an awful good time. Now get a crowd together, and then, well, throw in one of those monster trucks, and bang, magic seems to happen. As a matter of fact, the more I think about it, actually just get the monster truck, and the crowd will gather on its own. Think we don't have it all here at Albany's Timber Carnival? I tell you what, There's thousands of people in attendance here today, and they really have to hustle to take it all in. Okay, one more unusual lumberjack event. Who can cut the most firewood in 15 minutes? No, I'm just kidding. Although these two would probably be pretty good at that. No, this is precision tree falling. Anybody can cut firewood, can't they? But this really takes some skill. These fellas, in a required amount of time now, are trying to drop their tree as close to the stake as they possibly can. And we had a pretty close one right there. Another close one. And the festivities continue here in Oregon. Yeah, I mentioned a little earlier our points events will be coming up soon, and those events are the Springboard, the one-man buck, the stock saw, and the hot saw. And those lumberjacks, boy, they get very serious during these, because winning or even placing earns points and an invitation to the finals at the tail end of our season. And one of our lumberjacks is warming up right now. Say, have you ever seen speed climbing? Guy German's about the best there is at this. How do you, I guess there is so much to this guy. My gosh, how do you prepare yourself mentally to make a climb?
Well, you have to take a lot of time to, we visualize the climb, every part of it, the start, the leg up the middle, the ringing of the bell, and then, of course, the trip down. And there's critical parts throughout the race that you have to remember or try to make automatic within your mind, what to do and when to do it, so you don't make a critical mistake, because any little mistake can cost you a half a second, even a second or more, if you let yourself lapse.
Well, and I hear everybody cheering and hollering. I've caught myself cheering and hollering too. Are you hearing this?
Well, sometimes you remember a little scream in the audience or something, but the cheering and hollering sometimes motivates me to go a little harder, but I have to try to keep my mind on what's going on right. I focus on the tree right in front of me and try to stay right within the race.
That was not a dictionary I was holding in my hand. No, that was the Guinness Book of World Records, and Guy German has made a few marks in that book. I was kind of checking him out. Of course, his big one is the world record in this event, 24.82 seconds to climb this 100-foot redwood tree, which is his competition right now, and he normally does it in 26, 27 seconds when he's not on a record pace. He rings the bell on the top, then descends any way he wants, as long as he sets his spurs at least every 15 feet. Now, I noticed a little bobble going up. There it was. Doesn't happen very often, though. His climbing rope is about 1 inch in diameter with a steel core, and the spurs are regular pole climbing spurs with a little modification. And the crowds always come alive when Guy, or any other climber for that matter, starts down. Remember, set your spurs every 15 feet at least once, and he went up and came down in 27 seconds. Think about that.
We'll be right back with the one-man buck competition.
Gary Beecher is assisting us again here today, and Gary, you've kind of become our West Coast connection here.
Newly landed here, but getting to know these guys pretty quick.
Gary's a real good competitor and also with International Paper. If anyone ought to know anything about wood, Gary, you ought to. What is your position at International Paper?
I work as a forester, Jerry. I manage about 120,000 acres here in Western Oregon, and it's been quite a challenge after spending the first 9 years of forest management in the South. We got a lot of real good people and a lot of challenges ahead of us here.
What kind of wood do we have for this event?
For this event, all the chopping events will be on alder. It's pretty close to the yellow poplar that they use on the East Coast and the sweet gum that they use in the South. It's basically more of a bottomland type hardwood species. For all the sawing events, we'll use Douglas fir, which is the king out here in the West.
Well, let's find out who's the king of the one-man buck here in the West. And our first players are from Myrtle Creek, Oregon, my favorite town. Myrtle Creek's very own Little Bill Miller. And all the way from New Zealand, David Hokart.
Did I say that right, Little Bill? Man, have the Seattle Seahawks seen Little Bill. And isn't it amazing how many good lumberjacks come from New Zealand? Hogarth's another one of them. Now, I want to have some fun right here. Watch Bill's helper, or his second. This young lady's a slave driver. No way Bill's going to let up right here. And the second's jobs are, well, they're threefold. One, oil the blade. Number two, keep the log wedged. And number three, make the competitor mad enough, well, mad enough that he will not lose. And some muscles are on fire right now, I can guarantee you that. But David Hogarth was the maddest, I guess. Bill wants to quit. Oh, man, he wants to quit. I guarantee you he won't, though. His cut's probably some 10 seconds behind Hogarth, who is tickled to death with both his time and the fact that the event is over for the moment. What a test, huh? And a quick shift to the other side of our stage brings us Roland Esslinger from McLeod, California. This event is his best. And Terry Warfield from Toledo, Oregon. Fast start by these guys, and this is 30-inch wood. And you can't emphasize enough how conditioned a man must be to compete. Rollins had a tough competition here in Albany. Matter of fact, he just barely finds himself in the finals of what is generally thought of as his event. He told me beforehand, though, he was going to change saws for the finals. Matter of fact, he pulled one out of the mothballs, hadn't used it for some time. Thought it might react to the wood a little bit better as the seconds pass the time of day with both Terry and Rollin. Looks to me, though, that Esslinger will find the bottom of this log first, though, in this particular heat. Come on, Terry. Hang in there, man. Just a few more swings. And I can just hear Rollins saying, why did I wait so long before pulling that old saw out? Miller, Warfield, and Esslinger, all with pretty competitive times, but David Hogarth, 55.05, a new world record. Congratulations, Dave. Now, we don't normally follow the two-man buck, but check this out. Roland Esslinger and Superman Mel Lentz versus the two Hogarths, Dave and Mark. We couldn't pass this up. Mel's our overall leader at this time, and he's teamed up with his closest rival, Roland Esslinger. Pretty fair team, not too bad. And David and his other brother, Murray, won this event last year. Had a time of 37 seconds, but the Oregon, California team looks pretty tough today. And their time of 28:21 is another new record. Hey, we are hot today. 2 records in a row.
Well, we started out real good and quick. We had to get a good pace on them because the New Zealand team there have been sawing real well over the last couple of days. We first couple of days we had a few saw problems, you know, trying to sort out which one we were going to use. And I had used the saw yesterday in a single-handed and a little hard log, and I told Ron we better use the saw here today, and it worked out good for us.
Well, Rollin was speechless there, wasn't he? I guess he was really taken in by that world record time of 28:21. We got a little new rule with our stock saw, right?
Right, it's a little bit different slant.
Yeah.
Of course, in Mount Shasta, they were using the chain saws and the chains right out of the box. The change in the rule here will affect the cutters in that they are allowed to bring their own chains with them. So some of these guys that don't just do this for a hobby, but actually you work with a saw for a living, know how to tune that chain and make it race through this particular kind of wood. So we'll have the added chains of a saw that's bought out by the competitor, and instead of just cutting a disc, they'll do the cuts a little bit differently.
Yeah, okay, explain that.
Well, what we did in Mount Shasta, if you remember, was just one cut down.
That's all I've ever seen, really,
Right.
is just the cut.
And what they'll do here is they'll have a 4-inch segment of this log to make 3 cuts on. The first cut, they've got a 4-inch placed down the middle of the log that they've got to make a bore or a plunge cut, where they take the nose of the saw, and I certainly wouldn't recommend anyone other than a very experienced chainsaw person to try this.
Right.
But they'll plunge it all the way into the log until it comes out the back side of the log, pull the saw out, and then cut down, and they cannot touch that bored portion, the hole that they bored in. They'll cut a complete disc off and then cut up another complete disc, all within the 4 inches there on the log.
And these rule editions here in Albany should spice things up. We'll see. As Adrian James from Louisiana and our old buddy Dennis Harvey from California warm their saws up. And remember, in the stock saw competition, the saws are already started. And Adrian James could be super tough here because you know what his specialty is? Sharpening blades. Now remember, you can't touch this bore with your cut down. And when you cut up, you must be within the 4-inch boundary. And you know what? I thought Adrian cut over his 4-inch mark right there. We'll let the judges decide that, though, as we watch Dennis shoot for some bonus points here by picking up his axe and delivering it just above the bullseye for a 4. Our 2 stock saw finishers are given no warm-up or cool-down period for that matter. They go directly to our target, make 1 throw, and the same tally for Adrian. Another big 4. Is Mel Lentz in every final today? Well, this time it's against Cliff Hughes, another New Zealand competitor. And it's time to remind you that all these lumberjacks treat their saws with great respect. Hope you do the same. If you use a chainsaw, get plenty of instructions, and please pay attention to the manufacturer's guidelines and in the operating manuals. None of these events should ever be tried at home. As we watch Mel Lentz finish off a tough cut, and remember, they're not really competing against each other right here. They're competing against the clock. And everyone's always talking to me about how hot Mel can get with his axe throwing, but not this time. Another 4. We are stuck on 4s, aren't we? Hey, don't you just love Cliff's herky-jerky approach? But it's only good for 1 more 4. And the axe throws were pretty even, so nothing decided there. However, Lentz's saw time will give him another first-place finish.
I got kind of lucky there because that was my little brother's chain. One I had used there a couple days ago. I kind of bug up a few points on it. And Matt, he was unlucky to get in the final, so I used it, and I was used his, so it worked out pretty good.
Mel's time was 22.58, and he was followed very closely by Cliff Hughes. Adrian James and Dennis Harvey were both disqualified, and if you'll notice, Adrian actually starts his last cut on the other side of the mark. That was a toughie, wasn't it? Well, the Springboard event, a lumberjack's worst nightmare. Actually, these guys love this event. The idea here is to chop a groove in your tree, set your springboard, repeat the operation, only move up a little bit, get yourself in position to chop the top out of that block. Mark Etcheberry, Reno, Nevada on the middle log, and you tell me who's on log number 3. Mel Lentz. Boy, he's already set his springboard. The race is on. This is Eiler Adams, the closest to us. Eiler has some tough wood. Look how the axe head is sticking. Lentz is smoking, though. Doggone, this is his day. And Etcheberry, who beat Mel going away in Mount Shasta, seems to be off the mark right now. He could still catch him, though. And do these fellas get to rest in between events? No, they don't. They'll finish one and then move very quickly to the next one. Boy, that's unbelievable, I think. Mark's hurt just a little bit. He's behind. He knows it. And Mel Lentz, tell you, he's probably one of Timber Sports' finest athletes. His log's loose, and he's going to win this one going away. Good time by Mark, though. That was actually a good chop. And Eiler Adams from Eureka, Montana. Eiler will finish in 3rd place for this particular heat. Now, this is 12-inch wood. And you watch Mel's chops. Notice how smooth and uniform the actual bite is. You can also watch as he very steadily pulls away from Etcheberry. He always tells me that it's not how hard you hit the wood, but actually how accurate you are hitting it. Hey, there's been a lot of competitors entered in each one of these events. It's taken us, it's taken us 2 days to get down to this point. You're just watching the 4 or maybe 6 that have happened to reach the finals. And as you can see, we've got a lot of representatives from different states, as a matter of fact, from different countries. Pole number 1, Charlie Van Hall. In the middle will be David Hokart. Way down on the end is our buddy Roland Esslinger from McLeod, California, trying to get a good set with that springboard. And these chopping events are where Charlie Van Hall from New York, all the way from New York, Charlie, wow. These chopping events are where this New Yorker shines, as a matter of fact. He's a good chopper. And you talk about a terrible piece of wood. Man, what a shame here. Rollin is our last year's champ, 3rd going into the day. And with that piece of wood, he's going to have his problems on the springboard.
Come on, Charlie.
David Hogard in the middle set the world record earlier in the bucking event. Rollins asking, when is this day going to be over? Hang in there. Again, these fellas have been doing this for 2 days. How'd you like to lift weights solid for 2 days, or maybe play racquetball 2 days without a rest? That's about what it's like.
Somebody got him?
What conditioned men we have here. We've got a great event going on, too. This is neck and neck. David Hogart from New Zealand and Charlie Van Hall from New York. Hogart's going to pull this one out, though. It kind of surprises me because I believe Charlie made his turn first.
Come on, Charlie!
Springboard finals looking like this. Mel Lentz, number 1. That's not a big surprise, is it? He's followed by Mark Etcheberry, Eiler Adams, and then David Hogard.
We'll be right back with the hot saw competition.
This is Matt Lynch, Mel's brother, and if he's going to start that hot saw, he better hurry because he's just about to run out of time. And he didn't start it, which leaves Dennis Harvey all alone in this heat. And how fast will this big Mako cut through that log? Well, about 9 seconds, that's all. Hey, this is the exciting hot saw competition where anything goes. These are primarily motorcycle engines, weighing about half as much as the man that's using them. Lynch Etcheberry in the final heat. Mel's saw's really been cutting well. And it continues to cut well. Look here, Mark lost this event right off the top during a bit of a false start. Great time by Mel Lentz, 8.2. Etcheberry right on his tail, 8.6, and then Dennis Harvey's 8.7. That was a great event. Big jump for Mel Lentz in the overall points as well after 2 events. He sits right on top, but he's followed by Mark Etcheberry, number 3, Cliff Hughes, and number 4, Roland Esslinger. And we'll see how they do at our next stop in Hayward, Wisconsin.
The STIHL Timber Sports Series was brought to you by STIHL, the world's largest selling chainsaw. When you depend on tools, depend on STIHL.